This is a little explainer video for the Lazy Macro Challenge. Some of you would have participated in the 800 gram challenge last year. This is a step further. It's a challenge that's been started by EC Sinkowski. She has been with CrossFit for almost since its inception and is an expert on nutrition. If you listen to any of her content, her podcasts, or read any of her material that she's written for CrossFit, you can find it on crossfit.com if you search the journal, and you can find it also by looking at her Instagram as well. You'll see that she gives simple, practical advice that you can apply to any diet. There's no gimmicks, no fads, nothing that's particularly unusual. It's just common sense principles that will help you eat better and feel better. Now, the Lazy Macro Challenge is a step onwards from the 800 gram challenge because we add in the requirement for you to consume enough protein. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a one sheet. It's a one sheet that you will receive when you sign up to the challenge. I'll be sending that over to you guys later this week to get yourselves prepared. And don't worry if you don't feel there's enough information there, because with the challenge, there's access to the nutrition track on SugarWOD. You will see a ton of information every day. EC will be releasing content, videos, sign-ups to the 800 gram challenge guide, just lots of great information that's going to really help you throughout the challenge and beyond in building some good nutritional habits. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is why am I getting people to sign up and pay a fee for this nutrition kickstart? The reason is to build compliance. There is no money taken from you signing up that goes towards me. This challenge is entirely free on my part, but giving you a cost to pay. And the reason I want there to be a cost is because I think it will help people become more compliant and place a greater value on the challenge. Often when we have stuff that's free, we tend to not put much value on it. You think, well, if it's free, it's not really worth much to me. By adding a price, it means that you have bought in to this kickstart. In addition, it allows me to give more prizes this year. I plan on giving some weekly prizes out and some prizes for the overall winners and those who participate. It will be a selection of whip vouchers, and we'll do some 30-minute skill sessions with coaches and maybe some 1 hour sessions as well. It really depends on how many people sign up as to what prizes we'll be giving through. So once I've concluded the sign-ups by the weekend, I have more idea of what prizes we're going to give out. So let me get started and let's go through this one sheet and let me help you explain how the challenge, or the kickstart, as we like to call it, works. So we're looking at keeping it really simple. In previous challenges, obviously, we've been tracking macros and some of the ones we've done. This one is tracking, but in a much more simplified way. We're trying to not require perfection. We're not bringing any restrictions to diet. A lot of our stuff that we've done earlier in the year has required restrictions either in your calories or just in what you're eating. This has no restrictions, okay? We are using this to help you remove processed foods from your diet by consuming whole foods. Now, that is fruit and vegetables. That's the first priority. There is no rule on what you cannot eat, but you need to consume 800 grams of fruit and vegetables. Now I'm going to go through the yes list and the no list as to what constitutes a fruit and a vegetable. So I'm going through the list as it is on here. So we've got things like avocado. We've got canned items, so canned fruit and vegetables, as long as they're in water and spices only, not delicious peach slices in syrup, which are lovely, but they are not going to count towards your challenge. They are what we consider a processed food, and they've got added sugars into them. Coconut corn, fermented and pickled foods are fine, so like kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles. Legumes, lentils and peas all count. Olives, potatoes that aren't fried in a commercial fryer. Okay, so when you go and get your chips, they do not count, but if you've cooked them yourself, you can roast them, you can mash them, boil them, whatever, bake them, they all count, but deep fat fryer ones do not count. Salsa, if it's made without any water, oil or sugar. So basically we've just blended up the vegetables into and spices and fruits into a salsa, they will count. Tofu, if it's beans slices only. spices, not slices, and tomato sauce. Basically, if you've homemade that tomato sauce, or you've bought like tinned tomatoes, that will count, but not Heinz ketchup. Okay, that's not what it means. The no's are important ones to know. Smoothies, if they are bought from a shop or from a cafe, they do not count. If you make smoothies at home and you consume the fiber, so if you haven't stripped out all of the fiber from the fruits, then they count. Fruit juice of any kind, if you've made it yourself or if you've bought it, does not count because fiber matters. You really need to make sure you're consuming that fiber to get the benefit from that diet. Some of you may have heard of net carbs, but that's basically fiber makes the food that you're eating more difficult to break down, and it lowers its glycemic load, and therefore it has less of a spike when you're eating it. Also, it's more filling for you. So you need to get the benefits of the fiber in your diet. So make sure if you're making those smoothies, basically you're putting everything into the blender and you're eating everything you put into that blender. So if you're juicing it and then it's basically stripping out, you've got one of those fancy juicers where all the pulp gets removed and all you're left with is a nice clear juice, that does not count at all. Okay, so you cannot have that. Any dried fruit doesn't count. Again, you're removing the water weight. So we want to make sure we're consuming the water. It fills us up. That's a really important part. And again, it affects the glycemic index, glycemic load, how quickly your body will process the sugar, let's call them that, and how it's going to affect your insulin levels. So we want to make sure that we are not having juices and also conversely not having dried fruits or vegetables. We want to make sure that we're having them in a natural form as often as possible. Anything that's deep fat fried does not count. Any grains do not count. Nuts, including peanuts, which obviously isn't a nut, and cashews, seeds, they do not count toward. Doesn't mean you can't eat them, by the way. Remember that. You can eat what you like, but they don't count towards your total of 800 grams. Popcorn is another one that doesn't count. So you cannot just pound fruit juice and smoothies, okay? You can make homemade smoothies. But I would say don't rely on that as being the main portion. Don't just think, I'm just going to chuck everything into a blender and eat that. Try to get as much as you can from their whole non-blended state, because once you start to remove the need to chew food, that's a big part of gaining the benefits from that. So make sure that whenever you can, eating it, so I'll say, I don't care how you cook it, as long as you're not deep fat frying it, don't batter it. But yeah, make sure that it's more in its whole state. So we need to make sure we're consuming 800 grams of fruit or veg. Ideally, you are going to weigh it. If you're unable to weigh it, then basically in America they call it a cupful, but you can call it a fist size portion. And we say that you can have 6 of these and as much leafy greens as you like to get to your 800 gram total. So 6 fist size portions, that's the fist size is the amount of fruit or veg that you can actually eat though. So don't include anything that is surplus to requirements. Once it's been chopped and it's ready to eat, the stuff that you can eat, that is counted towards your fist size portion. So 6 of those, an unlimited amount of green leafy veg is going to be towards your total. A fist size amount of green leafy veg does not really count because there's not enough weight there. If you think about it, when you put a fist size, it's probably only about 25 grams, whereas a regular, like if you had sweet potato or tomato, something like that, it'd be more into the 100 gram, 125 gram weight. So think about that when you're doing it. But ideally, weigh it. Now, when you're tracking it, you don't need to be using MyFitnessPal for this one. You can just use a post-it note. In fact, EC recommends you just use a post-it note and just write down the amount of grams. So one post-it note for the day, and you can write on there, I've had 125 grams of cauliflower, 100 grams of avocado, 100 grams of bananas, so on and so forth, reaching your total throughout the day. What we are looking for in addition to the fruit and vegetables is you're hitting your protein numbers. Now, again, it's an American system, so they use pounds, but they talk about 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're not sure what that is, it's basically 1.5 grams of protein per kilo. So I weigh 87 kilos, depending on what day it is. So for me, that would mean I need to consume 1.5 times 87, which is 130 grams of protein a day. You can count 10 grams if you're eating of that from your fruit and veg, because that will be approximately how much protein you're going to get from 800 grams of fruit and veg. The rest of it you're going to need to get from regular foods. If you look on the one sheet, you will see that most meats are about 7 grams of protein per cooked ounce. Again, ounce is 28 grams. And a portion of meat, generally around 100 grams. So we're looking at 100 grams is about 100 grams of meat or fish is about 20 grams of protein. You can use MyFitnessPal if you want to work out your exact protein numbers, but think of it that way. Again, there's a bit more information on the one sheet as to how you're going to measure your proteins, but effectively that's going to be a challenge for some of you that aren't consuming enough protein. If you are a vegan or a vegetarian, EC will do some helpful advice for you over the first few days to help you, but you may need to be consuming protein powders, because it's very difficult for a vegan, especially a vegetarian. Obviously can have eggs and some dairy products, but a vegan especially, to consume enough protein. I've talked before about the needs of protein in veganism and vegetarianism. It's really important. So you will have to work harder, but it's definitely achievable, and you'll smash the fruit and vegetables, I'm sure, if you're on a vegan diet. In terms of like tracking, again, yeah, anything you have has protein in it, but especially make sure you're tracking the more protein dense foods like your meats and your dairy products, because they're also going to contribute to that total. The one caveat or change in your protein targets, if you are trying to lose 10 pounds or 4 or 5 kilos or more, rather than using your current weight, you can use your target weight as your protein target number. So say, for example, I'm not going to be trying to lose 5 kilos, but if I was trying to get to 82 kilos, then I could do that instead. So I could look at doing 123 grams of protein, which is 1.5 times 82, as opposed to 87. I'm not trying to do that, so I'm going to just stick to my 130 grams of protein. Okay, so how are we going to score this challenge? And again, there will be each day or listed how you're scoring it. But basically, you're going to be scoring 6 possible points a day. You have 2 points for hitting your 800 gram target. No points for missing it, all right? You get 2 points for hitting your protein target. Remember, it's 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, or 0.7 grams per pound if you are working in the imperial system. Please convert to metric as soon as you can. You also get another point for completing a workout that day. Now, we're going to include any of the class workouts or the work your weaknesses workouts that you do. You can do them at home or in the gym, ideally in the gym, but you need to make sure you're logging that on Sugar, whether you've actually done that. And that will apply Monday to Saturday. On a Sunday, you can classify anything that you do that is active for more than 30 minutes as a workout. Okay, only on Sundays. So if you go for a walk for more than 30 minutes, if you go for a run, if you do your own home workout, or if you do anything that is physically active for 30 minutes or more, don't know what else you could be doing, but yeah, there's plenty of things you can be doing physically for 30 minutes or more, if you're lucky. That will count for your point. So that makes 5 points. Now, the final point is one that often many of us struggle with. If you've got a baby like I have, you will struggle to score points here, but you score a point for achieving your sleep numbers. Now that is either 7 hours measured on a tracking, so if you've got a Fitbit, Garmin, iPhone, whatever, 7 hours of sleep if it's recorded on that, or 7.5 hours in bed. So if you go to bed at 10 and you wake up at 5:30, it's kind of my normal way to go, that would be a point. But you have to hit that 7.5, and that point is scored for the following day. So if I go to bed Sunday night, so the first day of the challenge is Monday. So we start on Monday the 1st of November and we finish on Sunday the 28th of November. So the Sunday night sleep, so Sunday how many days in October? I don't know, 30 days, 31st of October. Yeah, of course it's Halloween. 31st of October, if you go to bed and you get your 7.5 hours and you wake up on Monday the 1st of November and you have that 7.5 hours, you've already scored 1 point to the challenge just by being in bed. And like I say, look back and maybe in my previous blogs and talk about the value of sleep and its effect on your hormones, your cortisol levels, and how that can affect your ability to lose weight. In fact, if you don't get enough sleep, if you're under high amounts of stress, your body will be physically blocking you from losing fat. And that is a really undervalued component of health and fitness. And sleep is one of the main priorities. If you're taking all the supplements, you're rubbing CBD all over yourself, you're using a massage gun, you're doing everything you can, but you're not getting enough sleep, you're basically wasting your time. Sleep is your priority, okay? Diet, exercise, and sleep. And not necessarily in that order. Those three components are crucial. I would say nutrition and sleep are the top two. Exercise is third on that list, okay? And that's from someone who sells exercise, third on the list. So make sure we're getting those sleep numbers. So 7.5 hours in bed or 7 hours of sleep. You're going to log your scores on Nutrition Track on SugarWOD. We're very much using the honesty system. I'm not going to be coming around your house, making sure you're asleep or checking your food. You have to be honest with yourself to see the results you're going to get. I'll go through it again. 800 grams of fruit and veg. That gives you a point. 2 points. Protein numbers. 1.5 grams per kilo body weight. Another 2 points. Do a workout. One of the ones that we have programmed, okay, whether that's the workout of the day or a work your weaknesses. On a Sunday, you can do any activity over 30 minutes. Sleep, 7.5 hours. In bed, 7 hours tracked on a sleep tracker is your other way to go. Do that, you can score a total of 6 points per day. That would be, if you did that for the whole of 28 days, I would guarantee you would see some really good results. How are we going to measure your results? Well, first of all, if you can do 28 days, you're going to build some really good habits. I know for me, I am terrible at hitting my fruit and veg numbers. I am not good at consuming that. So that is going to be my challenge. It's one of my toughest challenges, this one. The sleep numbers I can kind of do, maybe time in bed, but not for sleep, but we're going to call that sleep for me. Exercise, obviously, I'm in the gym all the time, so easy for me to hit that one most days. But we're not necessarily going to get that every day. So I don't expect people to get 6 points a day and work out every single day, by the way. The thing that's tough is that 800 grams for me, the fruit and veg, consuming that on a daily basis. For your own progress though, I would suggest that you use the in-body, some people might call it the dreaded in-body, to measure your body composition prior to starting this kickstart. If you don't measure it before you start, it's very difficult to know if you've made an improvement. A lot of people, I was speaking to one of my clients the other day, and they weighed themselves and they looked at their body fat and they said, oh, it's worse than it was. But the last time they measured themselves was more than a year ago. And there's been lockdowns, there's been all kinds of stress and drama. So it's impossible to know whether they have improved from where they were 6 weeks ago by, when they started to apply themselves more to their nutrition and their training. Because we don't know how far down or how badly their body composition got prior to starting. So we want to make sure that we know where we're at the start point and have to face the reality of where we're at so we can see if there's any improvement throughout this challenge. Like all of these challenges, all of these kickstarts are about building better habits. So the 4 weeks that we have, you should see some results. But even if you don't, you should see some changes to your habits. You should learn some lessons, especially if you're focusing on the content that you're going to be getting from EC and additional stuff from myself. I will always be available to answer any questions on that kickstart. You can just drop me an email, jeremy@crossfitchilton.com. That would be the best way to do it. You can stick a comment on the YouTube and other stuff, but I know that with an email, I will definitely get that and respond. Good luck, those of you that have already signed up, taking part in this kickstart. I think it's a great idea, which is one of the reasons I signed our gym up to it, because I think it's a great alternative nutrition kickstart to some of the restrictive ones that we do throughout the remainder of the year. I hope you've enjoyed those. I, for one, have found great value in that, and at some point at the end of this year, I will do something on my results that I found, and all I have been doing is sticking to the principles that we have gone through this kickstart. I've done nothing new. I'm not doing any kind of extra stuff. I'm just sticking to the principles we have there. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope it's explained and hasn't made you more confused about what you're going to do. Like I say, any questions, please drop me a message. And remember, it starts Sunday night when you go to bed. Make sure before next week happens, you have a good stock of fruit and vegetables. Don't leave it till Monday, because we want to be getting those fruits in from, if you're having breakfast, from the first thing. It's much easier to consume them throughout the day than leave it till 6 p.m. and realize you've got to eat 800 grams of vegetables just before bed. Probably not the best plan, especially if you plan on getting 7.5 hours of sleep. Thanks guys for watching, and I shall speak to you very soon.